Hello and welcome to Tim Conley Drums. One thing that has always been on my mind when I join a band as a sideman, or as when I join a band just subbing, or even if I audition to join a band as a permanent member, and of course as a band leader when I'm doing the hiring. All those factors, what I think about is, what are my bandmates going to be like? Because I've been in band situations where the bandmates were awesome, some great bandmates. Then I've been in bandmate situations where the bandmates turned out to be terrible. Because, especially in a tour situation, you really get to know people and what they're really like when you're in a touring situation. And if there's one thing that I'm going to give you for advice in today's video is make sure that you can get along with the people that you're in a band with, because if you can't get along with people, it's a nightmare. So I'm going to give you a couple stories, bandmate stories, nightmare bandmate stories. So the first one, again, I don't like to name names because my intention with all my stories is not to, you know, bring people out and point the finger at them and humiliate them or anything like that. It's not that at all. I'm just giving you some band stories of things that happened to me. And I, generally speaking, don't like to name people because I don't want to call anyone out. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm just giving you guys some stories. So I was in this band that was a Blue Oyster Cult type of band. Played a lot of Blue Oyster Cult, and it was so strange because we played Blue Oyster Cult and we played music related to Blue Oyster Cult, and then out of the blue, Bryan Adams, which I never understood. The band leader, I asked him one time, and he just said, "I like Bryan Adams." Doesn't jive in any way, shape, or form with the, the space and ghosts and all the, the weird music that we're doing. All of a sudden we would throw a Bryan Adams tune in. I think it would throw the audience off too, but he liked Bryan Adams, so we did them. Anyways, there was this bass player, and I'm just going to call him Jack. And Jack was, I'm not sure if this is the appropriate term, but this is literally what he was. He was an idiot savant. And an idiot savant is someone who is virtuoso or absolutely brilliant at one particular thing. In this particular case, Jack was a brilliant bass player. Honestly, one of the best bass players I played with. But on the other side of the savant part is the idiot. And he was mentally about 6 or 7. So he had an unbelievable bass playing talent. He was virtuoso bass player. Unbelievable. But to deal with him outside of being on stage was impossible because it was literally like having a 7-year-old in the band. He was very childish. Um, like we'd be in the dressing room before or after a show. It didn't on the bus. It didn't matter where we were, and he would be like, "Tim, look at this. Watch me. Look what I can do." And he'd play this crazy freaking fusion bass line that nobody in the world can play, and it would be like, "Yeah, man, that's amazing. That's really awesome." And then he would just continue going on and on. I can also do this. What's this? And he'd play something else, and it was like, dude, give it a break. Like, just go and practice quietly to yourself and save that shit for the audience on stage. Like, I don't really care. But it wasn't just me, it was all the guys in the band. It was really hard dealing with Bruce. So this one show we played in Toronto was at I can't remember the name of the venue, but it was like a beer place, like a place that made beer. And it was a very large gig. I don't even know how we got this gig. It was a strange gig. It was in a factory, like I said, but a large audience came out, and We were the feature act. We had a opening band, and we were the feature act. Anyways, before we go on stage, Bruce is complaining that he's hungry. So the secretary of the band, the secretary to the manager of the band, had told us that food was coming, catered food was coming for after the show. So the manager went to Bruce and said, "Look, Bruce, the food is coming." And Bruce was a big guy, sorry, Jack was a big guy. I forgot to mention that he was built like a freaking gorilla. I never wanted to anger him because I thought he could tear my arms off and use them as drumsticks on me. He was a huge, barrel chested guy, and I was afraid that if I upset him, he had uncontrollable strength. He just looked so unbelievably powerful. Oh, music just started up over here. I'm at a resort in Indio, California. Music just started up here, so I hope it doesn't interfere too much. But anyways, Bruce was this big, powerful guy. I didn't want to anger him, but at the same time, he was very, very difficult to work with. So Bruce insists that he has to eat before the show. Insists to the point where, despite the manager, the secretary, and the band leader all telling him, "Bruce, you're going to eat right after the show. We've got catered food coming in. You can eat all you want and have a great time after the show." Well, Bruce is like, "That's not good enough for me. I need to eat now." And he went into full on child temper tantrum. "I'm not going on stage if I don't get fed." And he just goes, he's pouting in the corner, takes his bass off, and we're all like, "Bruce, man up. Like, we're about to perform. We don't have any food." Unbelievably, the secretary had to go out to Subway, which was nearby, get some sandwiches for Bruce, and he sat and he ate them really slowly and he was savoring them. We were all looking at him going, "I'm going to kill this guy. I'm literally going to kill this guy." He's eating them and he's going, "Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love this. Is my favorite sandwich." I don't know how long it took him to eat these sandwiches, but the manager of the band was having a meltdown. All of us. You get a certain time you want to be on stage. We could hear the people out in the audience going like, "What the hell is going on here? Where is the band?" It's not like we're massive stars. If you're a massive star, maybe you can get away with this, but not, small venue type gigs. You've got to get out on stage on time. Anyways, eventually Bruce finally finishes and decides, "Okay, now I'm ready to go on stage." 45 minutes late. We get out there, we play, we do our thing. The audience is appreciative, but they're pissed off at us because we were so late. They didn't know why, obviously, but Bruce was the cause. Or Jack. Sorry, I keep calling him Bruce. So, in the end, this was the icing on the cake for myself and the other guys in the band. We went to the band leader and said, "Look, we can't work with this guy. He's an amazing player on stage. When he's on stage, especially me, the interactions that I had with him on stage were unbelievable. But the stuff off the stage, and we were prepping to go on tour, there's no way I can last on a bus and in venues and all the, spend 2 hours on stage. Well, guess what? You spend 22 hours on the road with people. So 22 hours versus 2 hours, the 22 hours just outweighed it so much that I just couldn't take it. And it wasn't just me, like I said. So as a collective, we went to the band leader and said, "Look, it's him or us." And the band leader was understanding but very distraught because we're just about to leave to go on tour. We're going to be losing the bass player, or you're going to be losing the whole band. What's going to be harder to replace, a bass player or the entire rest of the band? Backup singers, you name it. So he fired Jack. Jack cried like a baby. We felt for him, but he had to go. I'm sorry, he had to go. It was a difficult situation. I felt for him, I really did, but I just couldn't work under these circumstances with somebody like this. So he was fired. And then we carried on, hired a new bass player and carried on. So that is my very strange. I'll never forget that story or that situation. It was so bizarre, and like I said, he was such a great player. When he was on stage, it was like he was a different person. He was a man, and he played to the audience. He knew how to work the crowd. He was an absolutely brilliant stage performer and bass player. He had no fear. Um, Everything he did on stage was amazing, but everything he did off stage was terrible. Just couldn't stand being around him. So, in the end, you've got to survive day to day to day to day. And if you can't get along with your bandmates, it's hell. Another story, I used to play in a country band, and it was a couple that led the band. They were husband and wife. And when I first got in the band, everything was fine. All the rehearsing leading up to the gigs, it was just like bar gigs, country bar gigs, and everything. It was fine. I mean, there was joviality and playfulness and stuff at the rehearsals, and everything was fine. But as we started to gig, and the band was great. We had a guitar player from Nashville and a bluegrass, amazing, world class type of musician in the band, and he was brilliant. He was a great player, but he was very difficult. He was huge ego, and he was very difficult. So we got this husband and wife team, and we've got another amazing guitar player in the band, but a difficult person. Now, this was a long time ago. This was probably in the middle 90s, like 94, 95. I think maybe even earlier than that, because I think it was before I actually went to music school. So it was quite a long time ago. Anyways, his standards for the musicianship was very high, which I totally respected. He wanted everybody to play at the highest level because he was playing at the highest level. I get it. I get it. But he was so difficult in the way that he approached the players. If somebody made a mistake, he would stop, he would call them out, he would have a fit. It was brutal because you're going to make mistakes, mistakes happen. But this guy could not handle anyone making mistakes. And he was very difficult, and he created a lot of tension at the rehearsals and on the gigs for that matter. Okay, so you got this difficult person in the band. On top of that, the married couple would do the strangest things on stage. They would take their grievances with one another because they were actually talking about getting divorced. And they would take their grievances with one another and they would put them out on stage to the audience. Now, the audience, it was a very strange situation. I can remember looking at the bass player going, well, what the hell is going on here? Because sometimes the guy would say something about how the wife is a pain in the butt or something, and right into the microphone, she would respond back, and they'd have this response back and forth, sarcastically criticizing one another and saying, well, if you didn't do this, then maybe I wouldn't do that. And like, I can't remember exactly what they said to each other, but it was brutal. And I can just remember being very uncomfortable listening to them banter on stage. And it was after every song. It was brutal. And the audience, sometimes they would laugh, sometimes they would look up at them and going, are they actually fighting on stage? Because that's what they were doing. So I can remember saying to the bass player, I can't deal with this anymore. Between the guitar player getting angry at you and I about whatever, and these two arguing with each other on stage, I don't know if I can deal with this. So the bass player says, well, let's have a band meeting. Well, there's an old saying from a movie, I think it was Jack Nicholson, that said, you can't handle the truth. Can't remember exactly which movie that was, but I can remember that as being a very something that stuck in my head from this movie. And I think Tom Cruise was in it. Yeah. So we had this band meeting and try to tell them the truth. The guitar player, try to talk to him about you need to calm down and being so critical. And we understand you want the best, but things happen on stage. Things happen. So you've got to learn to go with the flow. Okay, so that didn't go well. It was an argument with him. Then we tried to talk about the situation where the couple, the two people are arguing on stage and how it's just not cool. And you're making us and the audience uncomfortable. And they, once again, oh, no, 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 we're not doing that. Whatever they even tried to deny it like it was ridiculous. So that meeting was useless. They couldn't handle the truth, none of them. So, anyways, we continued on, played a few more gigs. Nothing changed. It actually got worse. It got to the point at one point where the guitar player actually took his guitar off and left the stage. He was so angry about something, and we had to stop the show early. And the arguing couple getting angry at the guitar player, and it was just the vibe was so negative in that environment that I couldn't take it anymore, and I quit. So sometimes you've just got to get out of those extremely negative situations where you're not happy. I mean, it's a job. Like as a pro, it's a job. But sometimes when you're in a negative environment in your job, no matter if it's playing music or doing anything else that you love, sometimes you just got to leave, and that's what I did. So I want to thank all my new subscribers and all the commenters. And my professional drum shop video is doing really well. Man, I love that place. I wish I'd filmed more in there now. And I wish I'd spent more time talking to Jerry. I didn't realize that the video was going to do so well. It's only 3.5 minutes long. I wish it was 10.5 minutes long. I really sincerely wish that I'd spent more time in that store. Like, without filming, I did spend time in the store because I didn't film everything that I was doing. I got kids are screaming behind me here as I'm filming, so I got to end this because the kids are screaming behind me. So anyways, guys, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to keep the stories coming. As always, keep drumming. See ya.